Hi, my name is Melissa Rashawn Potter. I go by MelRo for short. And when people ask me, what is it that I do? The best way to describe what I do is I thrive. I thrive. And my goal is to help others thrive, specifically those that have experienced child abuse and those that have lived experience currently and past in foster care. And I'm very, very grateful to be able to do the work that I do. And yeah, that's who I am. So, one of the interventions that I have found to be the most impactful for me is the liftoff and landing, really just helping someone to get to center, right? When they feel emotionally like unregulated and all over the place. And I've even applied it within my own self. So, some of the work that I do with youth is I serve as a mentor and a behavioral health coach. So, I'm really there to provide support for those kiddos that just don't feel safe within themselves. What I have done is in the past is utilize reflect, honor, and connect, making certain that that youth knows that they're seen and that they're heard, uh, holding space for that youth, and really just being there to be a guide, to show themselves, to show that youth that, hey, it doesn't have to be an unsafe space within you. And let's get you to a place where we can create safety within you so then you can begin reflecting that healing in the world. And for the most part, it's been pretty terrific, right? But there was a time where it didn't work. I had embarked on this major, major feat of taking a group of youth that live in foster care to Disneyland. I was so excited. I had worked with these youth all year via Zoom as their mentor, as their coach. And one of the things I had said to them was, listen, after we work together for a year, we are going to meet at the end of the year and I'm going to take you to Disneyland. And the kids were so excited. So we get to California. We, as in myself and all the youth, they flew in from all over the country. And I had one friend there who was a social worker. They're excited. You know, we did a panel discussion at a youth conference. And then after the panel discussion, we all met in the hotel lobby and we're like, all right, great. We're ready to go to Disneyland. I gave them all like, Mickey Mouse ears. They all had a per diem so that they would be able to just be able to relax and buy what they needed at the park. We're riding in Ubers together. We're texting on group text. We're laughing and everything seems great. So we get to the park and everything's fine. And then one of the youth who was the most emotionally intelligent, the most calm throughout the entire year, had a complete meltdown. We went on a ride, and then after the ride, she just collapsed. She collapsed on the ground. And, I'm gonna call her Jane Doe. I'm like, Jane Doe, what's going on? Can you like kind of describe for me what's happening for you? And she was like, I don't know. It's just sensory overload. The ride was too fast. People were screaming. It's just too much. And I said, okay, well, what would help you in this moment? Because I hear that, your experience, I'm trying to do, reflect on and connect. I hear that you're experiencing stress overload, sensory overload right now. I know that that must be really difficult. I hear you. I see you, and I can also relate, but how can I hold space for you? And she's like, I don't know. I said, okay, well, I'm going to stay here with you. The rest of the kids are going to go on the rides. Would that be okay? She says, no, it's fine. She gets herself up off the ground. She starts eating cotton candy. And the social worker and I are like, okay, let's kind of keep an eye. So then the youth took a completely different turn. She became very angry and belligerent and started cussing at people. And I'm like, I really don't understand what's happening. Then I could feel my blood starting to boil because I'm like, I'm gonna be honest. Initially, I'm just like, maybe she wants attention. Like, because it became, I'm gonna have these meltdowns. We're attending to her, we're not attending to the other kids. And I started getting really angry. The human part of me was just like, I want these kids so badly to experience healing. And now I'm having to attend to one of the kids. And then I was angry at myself because I'm like, why didn't you properly vet each child? Why didn't you make sure that you had more adult supervision? Why didn't you make sure, MelRo, that you were better equipped? So I was upset at myself. And then she kept on going up and down, up and down, up and down. So fast forwarding, we get to the end of our journey at Disneyland. And she had another meltdown. And I said, listen, what I would like you to do is have a seat on the bench. You're going to sit with the other Jane Doe social worker. I want you to listen. Would it be helpful if you listen to meditation music while I take these kids and accompany them on the last ride? She says, I don't want to listen to meditation music and I want us all to go home now. And I said, no, we're not going home now. Okay, what's going to happen is those kids are going to ride the rides and you're going to sit there and calm down. And this made her very, very angry. And so when we got back to the hotel, I had this gut feeling that things were unsettled because I wasn't really able to give this teen, my sweet Jane, I wasn't able to really hold space for her in the way that I wanted to in a noisy park with 29 other youth. And sure enough, when I got to my hotel room, the social worker called and said, hey, we have a problem. The teen is downstairs. She's threatening to go to the gift shop and to purchase a razor so that she can unalive herself. And I thought about, in that moment, what did I need when I was 15 years old, living in foster care, and also wanting to unalive myself? What brought me to center? But I also thought about in my own moment, because I was triggered. I'm just like feeling a whole host of emotions. One, that I let her down. Two, that why did I not, better prepare for my group? And also I was unsure what I was going to walk into. And so with all of these things kind of circulating my thoughts, I made a very quick plan. Thank you, resiliency, because it kicked in. But I made a very quick plan that I would go and hold space for her. And I would get to the landing very quickly in the way that I needed, and hoped that it would be helpful for her, because we know that healing is not one size fits all, but that's all that I had. I'm like, listen, I remember when an adult held space for me and was like, listen, Mel, I hear you. I see you. How can I serve you? Right? And I'm like, oh, I hope this works. So I'm on the elevator, feeling anxiety, doing some deep breathing in through my nose, out through my mouth, as I'm trying to get my nervous system regulated. And I see my teen, and she's sitting on the couch, bawling her eyes out. And I go and I sit right next to her. I wanted to show her that I was unafraid if she had the razor. I wanted to show her that I had nothing in my hands, and I wanted to hold space for her. And I looked her in her eye and I said, hey, I hear you and I see you. Why don't you tell me what's going on? And she began to just open up about just feeling so hurt and feeling so unseen and feeling like nobody understands her and feeling like it was just too much. And she doesn't want to go back home. She doesn't even want to be here anymore. And we had a very fruitful, rich conversation, but it was more me listening and her speaking her truth and standing in her truth in that moment. And then I went to the hospital with her, and it was a long night. I didn't sleep. But in those moments, I'm also sending a text message to the social worker, and we're connecting with an agency, and coming up with a plan of action at 3-4 o'clock in the morning of how we were going to meet this teen's needs and make sure that she had the support that she needed when she went back home, and talked to her foster mom about everything that was going on in her, and making sure that her foster mother was in partnership with her healing plan. And I learned a lot even about myself, that sometimes in doing this work, I'm also going to have human emotions, i.e. anger, frustration, feeling like a letdown, like, oh, I let these kids down. It wasn't a successful trip. And simultaneously, I had to embark on my own lift off and landing, like, hey, I'm not feeling so good right now. But then realizing, Mel, you were doing the best that you can with the information that you had. Now you know in the future, if you decide to do something like this in the future, how you need to be better equipped. And so when I was able to hold space for myself, I also got back to a place of feeling regulated. But the biggest thing was to make certain that you pre-plan with liftoff and landing before you go into a situation, because it's better to have a plan of action in place, a plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, especially when you're working with teenagers alone, but then teenagers who have also lived through trauma, how to make certain that those 3 Ps, the reflect, honor, and connect, and lift off and landing, all of those things are in place. And making certain if we have to kind of interchange in between all of those different interventions, that we're able to do that. So yeah, that's what I have. And I'm very, very grateful that I learned about it.